Hey everybody, Timo here. Welcome to another episode of Net Present Value. We explore the intersection of money, meaning, making a difference, and the legacy that we leave behind. This episode is part of the RWA for ReFi report. RWA meaning real world assets, ReFi meaning regenerative finance. It's made possible by the Climate Collective and brought to you by BASIN.global. Originally, this was going to be a series of 10 or 20 interviews looking at DeFi projects using RWA and how that is bridging over to the regenerative finance movement. But what we've discovered is that this movement is not going anywhere. RWA and ReFi is only going to get bigger. It's going to be enormous, and the impact is just going to be gigantic. So without further ado, this is going to be a regular segment on Net Present Value. We appreciate your comments, your feedback. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and ping me on Twitter at Timo Industries if you have comments, questions, feedback, whatnot. Thanks, and see you soon. Keep up the great work. I'm here today with my friend and longtime in the ReFi world cohort, Ignacio from Endangered Tokens. And Ignacio is one of my favorite people in the ReFi space. He brings positive energy, enthusiasm. He's smart as all get up. He's thoughtful. He's inquisitive, and he just brings it every single time. So Ignacio, welcome to the RWA ReFi report.
Thank you, Timo. You almost made me cry, man. That was so sweet. Really, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. Yeah, it feels good to receive sometimes.
Yeah, no, in all seriousness, all the ReFiFriday spaces we've done over the last, it's been a little over a year, basically.
Yeah.
We're recording this October 2022, and this whole ReFi movement really started to take off about a year ago, moving DeFi to ReFi. And every time I saw Ignacio pop up in the ReFiFriday spaces and to talk about endangered tokens, which I think people will hear today in this discussion we're going to have around your project, they'll pick up on it. I don't think we need to even talk about it. So.
Yeah, it's true. I'm passionate with it, and it can tell. Where do you want to begin? I can tell you a little bit how we started, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to start with, I'm just going to read from your LinkedIn profile, because I just love it's in a world of hyphenates, right? Of we are this, but we're also this, but we're also this. Like your LinkedIn subheadline is hydraulic engineer, entrepreneur, crypto geek, surfer, gamer, and food lover. And you go on further down and you say that sustainable ecosystems are the base of everything. Highly convinced that cryptocurrencies will save the world. So that's where I wanted to start.
I think I'm a very volatile person. Since I was a kid, I always thought that life is something to be experienced, and that means all the perspectives that you can get. So I've been doing a lot of effort to accomplish it. I've lost some battles, won some others. But yeah, I have all this broad of things. And regarding the last sentence is something that has me very passionate about in the last 2 years, by recognizing that the system is flawed. The system in the world, maybe you can name it capitalism if you like, but I don't think that's the exact definition. I think the money system is flawed, or that's my realization in some point. And cryptocurrency brings like this opportunity, this democratic opportunity of this new tool of value exchanging. And if you put good intentions with some regenerative within it, maybe we can create the incentives that are going to be more sustainable than the ones that drive us until now. Because nowadays, maybe everyone wants to have a more sustainable world. But on the day-to-day, the incentives in the systems are towards more utility, more extractive, making more money for the big bosses that maybe they want to save the world too, but the incentives within their company are made in a way that maybe they even can't change that. It's pretty complex. It's not that easy to grasp. And I think it's even harder to create a model that can be more complex, but at the same time, more sustainable.
I love incentives. And you hinted at the model might be more complex, but more sustainable. And so I use this analogy of like under the hood. We don't have to tell people that crypto, right, runs this complex system under the hood. that creates all these incentives that for the outcomes we want to see.
What do you mean by that?
So I think a lot of times people get caught up on like blockchain and crypto, right? If like you started a conversation off with like crypto and blockchain, people automatically like it's drug dealers and scams and
Bitcoin,
weapons. Energy usage. So the idea being is like the complexity, like I really resonate with what you said, like it could be way more complex, like crypto could be, but if we can make it simple on the surface. So it's like all we want, right, is the incentives, right, to execute what we want to see in the world. So I'm just picking up on, to me, like incentives is a huge thing.
And the incentives that I'm seeing nowadays in society are built upon taxes, upon bank rates, and upon grants. That's the three main kind of incentives mechanisms we've built, or the government has built, the money industry has built in order to make people to work, basically towards the goal. And that's super important. They totally respect that we as a species has built that tool to coordinate our actions in a free way, but at the same time, being able to produce very complex systems like computers or cars. That's the collaboration that's pretty complex. And that's being built because of these incentives through money. Who is creating that money? Who is deciding those rates? Who is deciding those taxes? How are they being? That's the part that's flawed because it's still, I was talking the other day with this PhD student from Australia. She's doing a PhD study in ReFi, actually. And I was saying something similar. We're talking about the same subject. It's all the incentives that's been done until today has brought us to a point that the planet is no longer sustainable even for ourselves. It's crazy. It's crazy. And we built that ourselves. But at the same time, it's like, how can we use this technology that we also have built with these same incentives to create something better? Just improve it. Just improve it. Maybe create new incentives. Like, for example, nowadays, the play to earn. Now there are incentives for playing. Why they can't be incentives for regenerating? That's the thing I think we are building with BASIN and with Endangered Tokens. We're trying to do something similar.
And so before we got going, you brought up intrinsic value, which we've talked a lot about in the past. So moving into endangered token, what incentives, I guess, give people an overview first of what endangered tokens is, but then let's get into the incentives and the intrinsic value of the trees and what you're tokenizing.
First, we found this problem, okay? And it has to do with the incentives. It's because the people that hold land that have endangered species within it, that do not produce any significant revenue for them, do not have the incentives to take care of it. It's just the cost. So it's a liability. But then you walk through the forest. If you are conscious enough, I think, as a living being, you can understand the intrinsic value. That's where the intrinsic value is. It's subtle. It's not something that can be grasped at first sight. It's something subtle. It's something more beyond the wood, beyond the colors. It may be just life itself as a whole, and how this particular being that's endangered. It's very probable that in a few generations, these species will not longer exist in this planet, even with our effort. Like, it's very much likely that we will not be able to save all these endangered species, but we need to try. And if in that try, we can save their kind of like their spirit within a different system that now is the blockchain, we have been saving its value. We're trying. So that's like the intrinsic value. How can it's the piece of art that nature created. It's the value of the history that comes with it. All the ecosystem that has formed around this tree might be much newer species in genome talking, but it's part of it, part of the whole ecosystem. And so that intrinsic value, it's not that easy to understand and also to reach from. That's what we're trying to do.
And so endangered tokens, I think we should talk about ENTS, the ENTS, right?
Yes.
So explain to people what that is.
So in the Lord of the Rings saga, in Tolkien saga, you have this magical beings that are called the Ents, that are the gods of the forest. And these are trees that can talk and can walk and they are taking care of the rest of the creatures. They're very slow beings. And so with that mythology in mind, the ants exist in the real life. They might not talk as we see on the series, but they have communication somehow. We're actually trying to discover and a little bit of research about that. So we think of endangered tokens as we are tokenizing the real life ants. We're making them a personification of them in the blockchain, and that people can engage with them, see its location, see what are the needs of it, and help them to be kept alive, and also be used as a store of value for future generations. There's a meme we use a lot. We have it on our Twitter page, and it's endangered trees are scarcer than Bitcoin. Changed my mind. And they are actually you have 21 million Bitcoin, but there are only 4,000 Keules alive, man. And so they are scarcer than Bitcoin. And if we can convince, I don't know if it's the word, but if we can create the system that can hold that value within these tokens, then we can create vaults of the world will be the forest. How much millions of dollars are spent on big, thick iron vaults to keep gold inside, to save that value, to hold it we can use tens of that money to just protect the forest, keep this forest protected, send that liquidity with tokens, and use that liquidity at the value saving that people is trying to use. It's used as a tool of saving the value of their time spent working.
I love that. I love the meme too, what's scarcer than Bitcoin, but the vaults of the world should be the forest. I love that, Ignacio.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, thank you.
And so you mentioned Keules in there.
Yes.
So for people who don't know what a Keule is, give us a rundown.
The Keules, or the scientific name Gomortega Keule, is a very rare tree that's only here in Chile. It's the last one of its family, Gomortega family. It's the Gomortega family. I don't remember exact name of the definition of the scientific name, but it's the last one of the Gomortegaceae family. Okay, so it's a very rare genome. There are no other trees in the world like it. And its genome dates from Pangea times. So when the continents were together, the Keule was there. There were less there. And they actually have a very rare, fruit seasoning every 3 years, something like that. Supposedly it was in a tropical environment, and there were mammoths that ate the fruit. And that's why nowadays it's very endangered, because it's really hard to reproduce it. You don't have those mammoths that need to eat that fruit. We're making some experiments with pigs, with cows, so it might work. There are other experiments to do more of successful, from the seed to the seedling of the sprout. So that's part of the research that we need to fund for sure. Research in the sprouting of the seed
in order to get them to reproduce more?
To reduce the threat of the species. That's one of the biggest threats, the sprouting of the seed. And you can see sometimes some natural sprouts in the forest, but then the next season is gone. It's really hard for them to be kept alive when they're really small. They're really fragile. So you need to have them in nurseries and then plant them in the right spot, protected. So it is a very long-lived species. We have 1,000-year Keules, not many, but few. And a 6-year-old Keule is to my knee. It's really, you need a 20-year-old Keule to be like a 10-year-old kid. I don't know. Something like that.
So some of the ones you're saving are 1,000 years old.
We don't have the exact dendrochronology study.
I love that word.
Yeah, I love it too. It's a nice word. And that's another part of the research that we want to address, but we have our estimates. And very probable there are root systems of Keule that are more than 10 years old. But the actual tree that you can see in the surface might be 200, 400 years old. It was cut down 600 years ago or something like that, 400 years ago or something like that. And then it grew back again. But you can see the huge root system for just one tree. We will be able to check it better on our 3D models of the trees that we are going to launch hopefully next month. One of the things one of our goals is to create a biodiversity credit with each of one of these trees. That would be awesome with Regen Network. We would love that. But for now, we're doing these NFTs where you can purchase one NFT and it represents that you hold the godparentship of that tree, and you hold part of the rights of the development of this digital value we're trying to build for each tree. What's the digital value that we see that we can harvest is the 3D modeling of these trees that can serve as a digital asset for video games, maybe movies, maybe also we want to create this augmented reality application in which you can plant the tree in your backyard, and with your cell phone or with augmented reality glasses, you can experience every day. So you can hold this replica of that tree and actually experience the tree in your backyard. That's something we want to build, and we're getting there. We're gonna get there. It's great. It's like the planet have aligned in a way that's never had happened to me before. Like how people has come to the project in the perfect timing for computing that grain of salt and keep moving forward towards our goal. So that's
one thing I just want to point out real quick about these interviews I'm doing with the RWA report is the real world impact, like the on the ground impact. I just really want to focus or bring that to the surface, Ignacio, about like what you mentioned, like the 3D modeling and the biodiversity credit and the dendrochronology of the tree and the research you need to do and the reproductive health. All of those 4 things are like real, like nuts and bolts, like grounded real world applications. Like I just want to bring that. I think like people in crypto or when they hear about crypto or blockchain, they think it's this something else. It goes back to that what's under the hood. It's to me, that's what's under the hood is like that real world, like stuff like that you're doing and you're using all the augmented reality and the VR and the godparenting and NFT as a way to get to that intrinsic value, as you said.
Exactly. We're experimenting with these new tools as the way we see it. But as you said it, the real world value, the real world, it's gonna be keep them alive, man. For example, it happened something really, the first expedition we made to the forest we have now been tokenizing, the same day, the neighbor of that had Queules, because it's the same ravine, you could hear the chainsaws cutting down trees. And the forest in a part, like it changed completely. And now we go to the forest and there's a part that you can see the sunlight in a place that before it was like pure jungle, and now you can see the sunlight because the neighbor cut down all his part to make carbon, to make coal, or that's the name, right? For use. You burn for
for the wood.
For the wood.
For fuel. Okay.
But for fuel. Yeah, exactly. And there were Queules there. I know because my partner that has been working in also in the protection of these trees, he had cadastered some Queules there. But politically, he couldn't do much because the owner of the land holds other Queules too. So he needs to keep a good relationship with him. So I think now they put a demand, a lawsuit towards the owner because like it's illegal to cut Queules, but still they do it because the incentives are there. They want it.
And so in Chile, are they clearing the trees for cattle like they are in Brazil, or it's solely for wood at this point?
They also now have a bigger piece of land for cattle, for farming, for planting more pines or eucalyptus, that's the forest industry. We have a very extensive forest industry in Chile. I think the largest company in Chile is one of the largest in the world. They land in Canada, in Brazil, and that's because the government in Chile have helped that company so much to grow because of an incentive program. It's an incentive program that still, I don't know why it's still, how you say...
incentive to cut the trees down.
No, the incentive is to plant them. Okay, but it's okay. The government will pay you 75% of the cost of the plantation of trees within a piece of land for the first plantation in that piece of land. So that incentive was created by the Pinochet, man, like the dictator that in my opinion, trying to be the devil's advocate, it wasn't as bad in the way of economic. They produced one of the biggest forest industry in the world with that incentive. So economically speaking, it was a nice move, but it was not like well restricted. And that I think was because of lobby of big companies, because that should have been for small producers. But once one holder holds, like they hold like 9,000 hectares of land or more just in Chile. That's bigger than countries. There are countries that are smaller than that. And this own company holds that only in Chile, and they hold a lot more in Canada and Brazil, because they have been able to be so much productive because of this incentive, they've been able to buy land elsewhere. So that's what we live with. And even though nowadays these companies greenwashing a lot, so they also hold some native forests and everything and do some regenerative action. But at the end of the day, they have the incentives that big company has. That's more utility for their shareholders, and that means growing and doing more forest and cutting more trees. And that means a threat towards these small ravines in which this very few species still live.
The big company, are they doing keoles or are they doing other eucalyptus and other species?
No, they only plant eucalyptus and pines, insignia pine. That's for wood and for paper.
Okay. So the incentives, so the incentives you're talking about is planting, but it's planting the other species.
Only for the forest industry. Yeah, for like the logging industry. Okay. I don't think there is an incentive for planting native trees. I might have to look a little bit better into it. There might be one, but I don't know. But that's the thing we have been living right now. And that's when you come to this land, you can tell. It's like everywhere you see, or there is like pine planted, eucalyptus planted, or just the land completely degraded because they just cut down hectares and hectares of pines for the logging. And now it's it's like a desert, right? It's like a desert. And then small trees, small pines again, growing because they planted again the same pines in the land. But it's pretty impactful because a lot of land covered in this same monoculture.
And so it comes back to incentives again, right? Like we started in the beginning. On the technical details of your incentives, you guys are building in Polygon. How does your tokenomics work around? We talked a little bit about play to earn. We're talking about godfathership and VR and AR type stuff. What are your tokenomics?
Okay, it's still in development for sure. We're still experimenting, but it comes something like this. You purchase the token of one of the trees. Now you're the godfather of that tree. That's the first incentive. It's like about
1 token per tree.
Yeah. It's a georeference token. It's a video token. Each token has its own verse and description, its characterization as a tree. So when we do tokenization, it's also cadastration. It's part of you can't protect them if you don't know where they are and how they are. So you still need to identify them. And that's part of the first tokenization. The first part of the tokenization process is also that. So that's the first part of the conservation program as well. Okay, so you purchase one. Now you're the godfather. That's the first incentive. You hold a valuable, scarce biodiversity asset. But then we don't want to stop there because that's not enough, in my opinion, for degens. We're trying to get degens on board too, eventually.
Yep.
So with that money, part of it goes to the landowner. Part of it goes to Endangered Tokens ecosystem in which we are developing these 3D models replicas. Now you stake your token, and now all the sales replicas of the NFTs that we can sell, part of it will go straight to token hold, like the original token hold. So now you can earn some revenue if you can help us to sell that replicas as well. And part of that replicas goes to the landowner for holding the trees in real life, and also to the ecosystem to keep the developing more cadastration, more tokenization.
In the replicas would be, in theory, cheaper prices, like a piece of art. So you have the original piece of art, then you have a series of 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the original is like the video on the georeference tree, and the replicas are the Unreal Engine 3D model that can be looked into augmented reality or virtual reality. And with that replicas, we are also building this virtual reality tour. You could actually visit in like a metaverse space in which you can experience the forest with an artistic perspective. It's like also not an augmented experience than coming in real life. You come in real life, okay, you will hear the birds, you will walk through the forest. It will be amazing. I love it. Every time I can, I will go to walk through that magical forest. But in this experience, you might have some enhanced experience. One of the things we are doing, or we will do, because we haven't got the device yet, but it's like we will plug electrodes to the trees, and those electrodes will be translated into MIDI music. So now you will hear, you could say the pitch of the tree, or you could say the music made by the tree, or you could say the heartbeat of the tree. I don't know, maybe those three together, but the frequency of the tree. And
Oh, wow.
so we want to include that within that experience of the forest. So you can experience the forest in a way that you wouldn't be able to do it in real life. And from anywhere in the
And
world.
it's just, Ignacio, it's just of the tree, or will you have acoustics of the whole forest?
We haven't done this, but this is my idea as an executive producer. So you will get into the experience. It will have a story in which we will tell you a little bit about the Keule, about the story of the play. Then you will have bioacoustics from the forest, the birds, the wind, the real life experience in a way. But then while you're approaching one of these trees, okay, because you have a forest and there are only a few Keules, you don't have, it's not only Keules, you have a few of them. So when you're approaching one of them, you will start hearing the music of the tree, the recording of the actual heartbeat of the tree, the frequency.
Wow, that's cool.
And then you arrive to the tree, and then you have a poem of the tree and another like more personal experience with that particular tree. And you will be able to see who is his godfather. So now the godfather also will be, maybe we can integrate something there with maybe some marketing. I don't know. That could be something, because maybe I'm thinking maybe DAOs can buy these trees as a way of doing their regen part, and at the same time they can receive a piece of space in the forest where it appears whose owner is that. That's also a utility that can be for them.
Well, and how are you doing what's your agreement with the land owner?
Yes.
So how does the token holder know the tree? I mean, we know the goal is to preserve the tree and protect the tree, but how do you legally enforce that?
There is a document that's called, I don't remember right now, my partner has told me a bit about this. It's Royal Decree of Conservation, something like, I think, yeah, Royal Decree of Conservation, something like that. And that's a legal document that binds the property to a conservation program that's enforced with the government. And we want to do that. We're in the process of doing that. Right now, with the landowner we're working right now, it's like he wants to preserve the trees as well. So he's okay, you do whatever you need to do to help me do this. And our goal is to be able to pay him in like monthly for each tree we're taking care of. And part of that payment is also taking care of the forest, for example, where I don't know, installing solar panels to help pump the regenerative farm we are building beside the forest. It's part of the things that's utility for the landowner, helping to build this project. Because most of the landowners have to struggle themselves with their own resources, so they end up cutting down tree. But it's something that we
the idea of if there's more, it goes back to incentives, right? If there's more incentive to keep the tree alive, right?
Yeah.
And there's payment or revenue stream besides the intrinsic value that we all know is there.
Yeah.
If there's actually monetary value, then that's where this really starts to get effective. That's
why we're trying to build all these things. And it's an experiment still, like how we can get to the community, I think will be the point break of if this is going to work or not. And that's something that I think we're all struggling with. The community engagement, I think, is the difficult part here.
Cool. That's where the project is super interesting. I love it. I love all the artistic stuff you're talking about and the intrinsic and the stuff we can't see. Like you said at the very beginning, it's the stuff you can't see right when you arrive.
Yeah.
You have to be perceptible and sense. But how can the listeners get involved or how can people support the project, Ignacio?
Right now, it would be following our Twitter, getting into our Discord. If anyone would like to contribute us whatever work, we are receiving time donations for sure. And any contributions, that's how we are working right now. We have a team of almost 10 people. All of them are working pro bono under the hour and some way. And of course, if you would like to be a godfather of one of the Keules, that's only 25. That's a direct message in Discord. We had the minting open for a while, but now we're changing to a setup in which the holder of this first collection of Keules needs to be someone of trust, of someone that believes in the project, that knows me personally, at least digitally, hopefully that can be a contribution towards the cost. For example, most of the holders right now is part of the team. We have paid ourselves with tokens to the team, like the developer, for example, the designer also. I hold one myself. So that's the way in which you can be a godparent of one of the Keules. If you have a grant or something, We are totally, that's one of my jobs, getting into grants, trying to get funding, because we definitely need more funding to developing this. And next month, we are launching our arts collaboration. That is, I've been talking, you have heard of this since a while, because we have postponed its launch a lot of times. That the entries, the pixel art that like a generative pixel art collection of 10,000 pieces. Not very complex, but it got some nice features like local birds drawn in pixel art. The same is a pixel art Queule with different traits. Like some of them got leaves, some of them don't. Then we got into there are clouds, there are thunder. So it's just different traits in the pixel art environment. And that will be like our facing. That's like our decentralized facing that we want to make. And we want to use that to grow our community, because Queules are so scarce that even 25 Queules is not a very big ReFi community. We need a bigger community that can also be able to pay something more reasonable, because it's not a cheap fee for a first mint to hold a Queule. But these pixel art trees are very accessible for everyone with a Polygon wallet. Actually, the first 100 will be free. So it's also, that's one of the things we want to encourage the people that have followed us the last to be the first mentors and have one for free, and then keep growing, selling these entries as a way of being part of the community and working endangered tokens.
Cool. I encourage everyone to get involved. You can go to endangeredtokens.org and you can see videos of the actual parent trees that you're going to become. The listeners hopefully will become godfathers of the parent trees. Yeah. But then also that you have the pixel art on the website as well. Lots more I could talk to you. We could talk about and jam about. But I think that's a good start to introduce the project to the greater community. And really, I love the creativity, Ignacio, and everything you're doing with it, and the persistence. Here you are, or both of us are a year later. Yes, slow but steady. So at least we're still standing. Yeah. We're like the Keule's trees.
Slow but steady. Yeah,
back to endangered tokens. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you want to talk about how BASIN and endangered tokens relate. So we started talking before recording, but I don't know if you wanted to go there, or
let's do a follow up on that. Ignacio, he's bringing up BASIN, which is our project around real estate and all the different layers of value around real estate, which to me, endangered tokens is a tributary or a confluence of a BASIN of sitting. It's something that happens on a piece of real estate or in the ecosystem. And so I think there's a lot of potential collaboration, but I think for this segment, we'll save that one for next time.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. We need to have more things to talk next time. And I would love to keep talking, man. Always a pleasure. Thank you for the time. Yeah. And just to sum up or something like that, you would be, for example, a perfect godfather for one of our Queules. If you would like to, we would be honored.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. We'll DM about that. But yeah, love the project, Ignacio. And in another conversation, we also need to get into your hydro mapping and basin mapping. Ignacio has a whole nother project around like beautiful colored basins and watersheds and how they look. So
yeah, that's my hydraulic engineering background. I work with basins on a daily basis. So right now I'm finishing a very big project for the Chilean government, in which we have modeled the underground water and the surface water and integrated two different models. That's mud flow and WEAP. And now we can have a budget of how much water can be it's a modeling until the year 2060. So we can help the government develop politics around water, so there's no shortage and our distribution of the resource.
So you should talk to Will Masters at Ogallala Life if you haven't yet about that.
I have. Yeah. We need to catch up with him for sure. I need to catch up with him, but yeah, we're also together in the water circle in the ReFi DAO.
ReFi. Yeah. And we didn't even touch on that. Yeah. So we'll have to do a follow-up episode, but keep up the great work. And as we say in ReFi,
LFG, man, let's go.
Okay. Sounds good, Ignacio. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, talk soon. Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening, watching. Please make sure to check out the guest website and social. Also, check out climatecollective.org and basin.global to get your own basin. Personally, I think the climate and nature crisis is going to be solved by guests like that and people like you, place by place by place on purpose. So keep up the great work, everybody. And as we say in ReFi, LFG.